Hello again. Good morning, good afternoon, depending where you are located. Thanks for joining me today to learn from our guest speakers, David Hauser, about the design thinking. I hope everyone is safe and well there. My name is Yanling Tan from OVHcloud, Asia Pacific. I'm running the OVHcloud Startup Program by supporting the startup ecosystem, the startup community in this region, including Australia, New Zealand, Southeast Asia, and the rest of the Asia countries. I'm myself based in Melbourne. For those who are not familiar with OVHcloud, we are a global cloud computing company with data centers across 4 continents, including Asia Pacific. We have 3 data centers here, located in Singapore and in Sydney, Australia. We support startup through our OVHcloud Startup Program with free infrastructure credit for public cloud, hosted private cloud, cloud storage, AI, machine learning platform that suitable for startup or scale up to start and scale your business. Services comply with highest certification and compliance, and we support more than 2,000 startups worldwide since we launched the program a few years ago. And this year, we are running a series of learn and share sessions, like webinars today. Invite our subject matter experts from our guest speakers to support startup in different topics. And today, our topic is about kickstart your innovation with design thinking. Let me introduce our guest speaker, David Hauser, the CEO and Director of Silicon Beach, Australia. With a degree in engineering and mechanical design, David did spend over 10 years in machine tools industry, where he served in roles as lead engineer and project manager in design complex manufacturing machines for automotive, aerospace, and medical industries. David would like to say hello to our audience and also introduce yourself, give a bit of color about yourself and also about Silicon Beach, Australia, perhaps.
Hello, Yaling. Thank you so much for the introduction, and hello everyone on the call. And thank you, OVHcloud, for having me. Yes, as you shared correctly, I used to be a mechanical and a design engineer, and a couple of years ago I got a little bit tired how innovation was handled within the corporate world. So I've decided to bring my knowledge, my experience into the startup world, where I just found more creative spirit to support. And yeah, that's what I'm doing now for the last 3 years, coaching innovation and design thinking, but also have inherited Silicon Beach, Australia's largest startup community, connecting all of the Australian startup places, startup ecosystems in one large community with over 25,000 people around Australia. Yeah, that's my main business at the moment, to actually create a proper value proposition and a proper journey for everyone on their startup journey, regardless of how early they are, helping them to come up with ideas that are actually creating value for their designated customers. And I'm very happy to share that today with the audience here.
Thank you so much, David. It must be very different that you came from a corporate world and now you are actually into a startup, very vibrant, different vibes of communities. How is that difference?
It feels much more empowering, right? You give up when you're in the corporate world. You have a lot of security, but you also have a lot of rules around you that are limiting your creativity. So you have to find what's the right thing for you. Some people are finding fulfillment in the corporate world, other people not so much. I had to make a decision for myself that I'm need more freedom to be creative and have more creativity around me. So that's why I decided after 10 years that it's better for me to try something new. Yet there are good things about the corporate world. Some of the rules are and the strategies and the tools that we're using in the corporate world are quite helpful, and finding the ways to bridge that knowledge and bring it into the startup world is beneficial for everyone trying to start up something new.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, thanks for sharing your experience with us today. We are looking forward to what it's all about, the innovation and also design thinking and so forth. We are all here to learn from you. Yeah. So what is all about innovations and ideas and all? What is it different from thoughts that people are talking about every day? We have so many thoughts, but then what makes it become an innovation?
Yes, you're right, Yanling. We have a lot of thoughts. Actually, on average, each and every one of us does have 60,000 thoughts every day. And 3,000 of those 5% are new thoughts that we never had before. And you could say that those are 3,000 new ideas that we have every day, but not all of those 3,000 ideas are becoming innovation, right? And that's probably the biggest difference in between ideas and innovation. It is the implementation. Or as Scott Belsky said, it's not about ideas, it's about making ideas happen. Everyone does have ideas. I have probably 300 that I could count out of those thoughts that I would call ideas a day, but I'm not creating 300 innovations a day. It puts effort and it puts determination to actually make those ideas and transform them, implement them to create innovation.
Ah, okay, interesting. So it's all about implementation and execution then, from thoughts to ideas to innovations that put in on the table.
It is, yes. Ideas become innovation through implementation.
Ah, okay, interesting. But how are we going to differentiate between what would be a worth spending efforts, ideas to innovation, and so maybe I should rephrase it is that how to differentiate the good and bad ideas in that way that uh, we should actually put attention to.
A good idea that does have the potential to become an innovation does have to create value, and it does have to create perceived value. So whoever you want to serve with your idea, that person, that customer does have to perceive it as valuable, what you're going to create for them. Now you can have a great idea that is creating value just for yourself, and a lot of us have about ideas about our own lives and what would make our own lives better, and that's completely valid. If you implement an idea that is making your life better, then that's an innovation. You're innovating your own life. Can you make a business out of that? Probably not, because you're just taking money out of your left pocket and put it into your right pocket. So that's not going to pay your bills. So if you want to create an innovation that is valuable for more people, you have to figure out how many potential customers with how many buying power can you serve with those ideas.
Okay, so it's all about how you can make money off of it, and there is commercial values, that your ideas can become innovations that's sustainable. Thank you for that. So as a startup, how to get started with the ideas to make it valuable, that meet the market needs for.
First, I tell early stage founders within the community that come with ideas to me, don't get started at all. Go 2 steps back. Having an idea is in the design thinking process is only the 3rd step in the process. As I said, we often come up with ideas that are related to our own problem, what we see is a problem, but we have to understand if other people do have the same desire to get the solution for that problem. So we have to go back and find out if people perceive that problem as well, if they experience that problem, and if they would be happy to pay for creating a solution around that problem. And that is the very interesting and important aspect there is that when we have this idea and we have this target customer that we would like to serve, that we do not go out there and tell those people, hey, that's my idea for a problem that I think that you might have. Because people do not want to disappoint other people. If we prompt them to actually say yes or no, we like your idea, that's basically what we get. Most of the time we get a yes, and then we think our idea is awesome. But that doesn't necessarily mean that people will be happy to pay money for it. So what we should do when we go back to actually understand people, we should just go to our customers that we think our idea serves and just listen to them, have a conversation with them, and learn what is troubling them in their lives and what would make a difference in their lives. And if they come up with something that is close to our idea, perfect, then we know that there is a potential market. But if they do not mention the problem at all, even after a little bit of listening, we poke them and we try to steer them towards the problem, and they do not resonate with that problem, then it's probably not a problem that they have. And creating a solution for a problem that people do not have, that might not end up well for the sustainability of your business.
Interesting. So you need to actually resonate the problems that you are trying to solve with others people have the same thinking. That's what you're trying to say.
Exactly. It is not about the ideas, it's about the problems that we're solving. When we come up with ideas, we have a strong emotional attachment to our idea, and we always think that it's the best things in sliced bread. But we have to learn to let go from the idea in the first place and really try to understand the problems that people have and identify problems that are worth solving. And when we identify those problems, then we should go to ideation process. If we're very lucky, our idea still proves to be valid, but 9 out of 10 cases, we will find out that there are better ideas to solve the problem that we learned about. So starting with an idea is good to identify a market that we want to serve, but then we have to identify if our idea is really resonating with that market, or if there is a more interesting, a more important problem to solve for that market.
Okay, interesting. So we really have to resonate the problem in the market that have much better potential value rather than actually just thinking that our ideas is the best and have the strong, like you say, emotional attachment to it that always think is the best, but we never really validate it with the potential customer or whoever were willing to make the payment to buy your idea or get your solutions, yeah, into their shopping cart. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. And thanks for sharing that.
No worries. And look, putting it into shopping cart is important, because if we do not solve the most urgent and the most important idea for our clients, someone else will find out that there is a more important problem to be solved. And then our idea for a problem that is 3rd or 4th grade competing with a solution for a problem that is 1st grade. So if your customer does have to make a buying decision in between 2 solutions, they will always go for the solution that is solving their biggest problem, right? So if we do not address the biggest problem, we put ourselves in the situation that we might just be left behind, because our customers do have limited resources. They can't buy everything. They will buy what solves their biggest problem first.
Okay, so that's actually make me think that there must be a process, a best way to actually make this real and become solvable solutions for the problems. So what would be the best practices as a startup should they follow? Is there any methodology, standard processes that should actually follow, so to make sure that the ideas become a real innovative solutions for the market?
Yes, there is one, and there are multiple ones. I think the most common one out there is the design thinking process, which was already defined and formalized in the 1950s, where basically the methodologies how architects and engineers went after problem solving was put together into that framework of design thinking. And you see it right now on your screen. It's basically most models describe it as a 5-step process, which starts with empathizing, goes through the define phase where we define the problem and the target customer. Then we come up with creative ideas and make decisions on which one we want to implement to actually test the ideas and how well they solve the problem. So yes, the design thinking process is a good one to get started, and it is basically a process that helps us to get from A to D, or to E in this case, right? Entrepreneurs, experienced entrepreneurs, they know that it's all about discipline and going through a step by step to get to the goal. Now, when we're new in the startup world, when we do it for the first time, or we come out of the corporate world and we do not have project managers anymore that are guiding us through the design process or the project, it is hard to keep yourself motivated and on course through a 3, 6, 9 month period of time, right? And as Henry Ford sometimes said, nothing is particularly hard if you divide it into small steps, into small jobs. And that's what a good process is actually doing for you all the time. Any process is making a big task and cutting it into small slices that you can more easily master, right? And with the design thinking process, it is like, okay, you want to have a MVP at the end of your design thinking process, right? And you go through the process by following the steps: empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. And that will get you to your goal. And you keep going. You're disciplined, as I said. That's the most important thing. Don't stop the process. Don't jump ship. Keep on course. And if you would like to learn more about the process and go deeper into the process, there's actually the book by Bill Olet, Disciplined Entrepreneurship. He is breaking the process down in far more steps. He's following design thinking, but I think it's a 20-step process that he has defined around the design thinking model.
So is this process should be actually you should actually implement this process at every step of or at every stage of your startup business, that always test the processes, always test your idea, always implement it to enhance it and make changes, then go back to the loop again.
Yes, design thinking is an iterative process. So you're never done with design thinking. You've never done with the process. You in the early stages, ideate, empathize, define, and ideate. You go in loops. You go in loops until you learned what really troubles your clients and what really could make a difference. And then you start prototyping. And you go in loops again, and you build your prototypes, and you go back to your clients and you test with them how they like your solution. And if they don't like it, you go back and test another one. And that's how you basically come to the best solution by elimination of bad solutions and bad ideas.
Okay, so these are the standard processes that a startup or any entrepreneurs that they want to go into the market, they should actually make sure that they have the problems to address, and then design the solutions, come up with an innovation idea, and then prototype it and get validated by the potential customer, or get tested in the market. But then we always heard about in startup processes, MVP is so important. So MVP is not the first step and state, but is actually the pre-MVP process is actually very crucial as well before you actually go into the prototyping. So how are we going to make sure that my question is MVP the only first step that to do it, or there are many more things that we should actually consider and don't miss out?
Your MVP,
Because we see a lot of startups spend a lot of time in building the prototyping, it become like the go-to solutions, or I would say solution means that the process that they go to build the very nice MVP prototyping that almost perfect. So is it a good idea? Is it the only things?
No, unfortunately, it's not a good idea. Most of us are not Steve Jobs or Elon Musk. We can't change the world that easily. We have to learn what the world wants, right? And we see it with Silicon Beach, where we get a lot of early stage founders. Unfortunately, we see it a lot that people spend significant amount of money to build an MVP before they haven't done the check of the product market fit. And that always makes me sad to see that, because sometimes it's really money that they would need to support their life that they've spent on it. So no, the MVP is not the first major step. You can learn a lot and you can optimize your product market fit before you spend a lot of money. And when we look at the terminology MVP, it means minimal viable product. You have to find out that it's viable before you build an MVP, because only when you have proven the viability, then you can build an MVP. Otherwise, you just build something and then you hope that someone likes it. And the odds are bad for that.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah. So is not to actually put, or you are not building the solution, you are actually just to test and get validation of the idea. So don't spend all your time or all your resources into a prototype. Yeah, that's a very good advice, because we do see a lot of startups actually try to you have the idea, you're so attached to it, and you want it to make it perfect, and a lot of time you forgot the time, the resources, the money that you already spent on it, that you might have already missed the market, missed the opportunities that you could potentially have. So yeah, that's a very good advice. I think startups should actually remember that. Set yourself a boundary, a time frame, and also resources that you're going to actually put in place in order to move to the next steps. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, David. I think that's a very good advice, and we do see a lot of startup make such mistakes. So other than this, what are the common mistakes that you see in your process of coaching the startup using these processes? What are the common myths or mistakes that startup will usually do?
Confirmation bias, as we said earlier, right? It's all about emotions, and successful entrepreneurs, they can actually take their own emotions out of the equation and focus on the emotions of the customers, of the clients, right? When we empathize, it's all about making it about the customer and not about us. So we are emotional often to our own ideas, and we're looking for getting confirmation that our ideas are amazing. Because yes, that's what we want. We want to find positive emotions, right? Now, what separates an entrepreneur, a successful entrepreneur, from a customer of a successful entrepreneur is not focusing on yourself that much short term, focusing on your customer, right? So you're not looking for the confirmation that your idea is right. You're looking for the numbers that tell you the information, the research results that tell you that it's the right solution for your customers, right? So confirmation bias, overcome that. Be critical to yourself and listen especially to the people that do not make you feel good about your idea. The angry customer is basically where you learn most from. If someone is really angry, then they do not hold back with anything. They will tell you exactly what they don't like and more. So that's where you often learn the most.
Yeah, of course, we all should learn from mistakes instead of learn from what the good positive. Then there's no way for us to actually progress ourselves.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. And look, there is the book and the term, the mom test, right? Don't ask your mom if your idea is a good idea, because most of the time your mom will tell you, just because she loves you so badly, that's all your ideas are beautiful. So don't go to friends, don't go to family to ask about feedback about your idea. Go to the people that are really going to be your paying customers, not because they love you, but they love the solution that you bring for their problems.
Awesome. Yeah, that's good idea. So what would be the milestone or typical milestone that a startup should actually look into that putting this all in place?
Look, everything in the design thinking process, or whatever process you choose to follow, can be a milestone. So in the design thinking process, we have the 5 milestones, which is Empathize, which means could be, okay, I did now 10 user interviews and I've got that in. So I did my empathizing phase. I have the information that I need. The next milestone could be define. What do we mean by define? Creating a persona that represents your audience, your customers, that you can design for. So taking the information that you got from the empathize phase and make it concise, so you can address it easily. Think about it. If you interview 10 people, there is some commonality, but there's also very difference, and you want to just focus on the commonality of those 10 people, and that's why you want to have just one persona that you design for. And then you go to the ideation phase, and that could be your next milestone. You can set yourself milestones to come up with 20 ideas and down select the 3 most promising of those ideas. That can be a milestone. Next milestone, build your first prototype. What do you build your prototype for? What we haven't talked about, prototypes do not have to be there to test the whole thing. That's what the MVP is later on. Your prototype, you just test functions, singular functions of your whole product. So you can test with a prototype the desirability of your product, going back to your customers and ask them, is this a good solution for the problem that we've identified to solve? You can test the feasibility. Can you actually build it? Not everything that we can imagine that could be a good solution can actually be built. We do not have the capabilities, not ourselves. We might need other people to come on board. If we're non-technical people, we need technical co-founders, or we need service providers that design technical solutions for us. So we can test that with another prototype. And a business plan is a prototype as well. If you have a first iteration of a business plan, is go to investors, to possible investors, and say, look, that's my business plan, that's my growth plan. Would that be something that you would be interested in investing? Taking a business plan, Creating a business plan is creating a prototype to test the viability. Going to customers or to investors with your business plan, that is testing if your prototype of the business plan is actually working. So that can be a milestone. And then, of course, the big milestone that everyone is talking about, then finally, if everything is brought together, that's the MVP. And your MVP does, at the end of the day, does have to create cash flow in some sort, which can either be through paying customers, or which is that it's so attractive and does offer such a big growth potential that investors are going to put money into your business. But I would also like that especially for early stage founders, it's probably not enough to set milestones. You might want to set quarter milestones or even 90-yard stones, because even getting those 10 interviews in to learn about your customers, that takes a while. To get 10 people agreeing to have interviews with you, you might have to call or talk to 100 people, and you get 90 rejections to find the 10 that are actually working with you. So that takes your time, and it can be a quarter milestone for you to just say, okay, tomorrow I call 10 people to ask them if they would like to interview with me. And if you do that each and every day, you will get your 10 interviews. But each and every day you have to call those 10 people, otherwise you will never get to the 100. And when you do that, that's an achievement. And when you achieve it, celebrate at the end of the day for what you've accomplished.
Great. Thanks for sharing that. That's very interesting. So what I can see now from the slides is a bit different from what the standard design thinking is about. Like start with empathize, and then ideation, define, then ideation. But this is an iteration of multiple the processes. Then go back to test again and get it design again and build again, then go back. So it's very similar to the BDTL kind of processes, isn't it?
It is, and look, it is basically, it is what nature is doing, right? And as bad it is right now, but it is what the coronavirus is doing, right? It creates different mutations and looks what sticks with people, what gets the biggest market share, and then it focuses on that. With everything we do as humans, when we build something, we copy nature, and nature is trying a lot of things, finding out what works, forget what doesn't work, and focus on the most successful solutions. That's how evolution works, and that's in nature, and that's how evolution works in business and in startups. Try a lot of things, do your lessons learned, stick to what works, and keep doing it all the time. You're not done with iterating when you have an MVP. It always keeps going on in loops and in learning cycles.
Yeah, I can't agree more. Yeah, that's a very good advice, and to the especially entrepreneurs and early stage startup, not to forget this. Yeah, it's not just a one-way ticket, but then you allow yourself to actually learn, and then take a step back and see what is the good things that across this process, and what would be the negative side that we should actually learn, relearn, and then make it better. Yeah. So what are the recommendations you would give to early stage startup in this process?
Stick to the process is important one. Whenever it gets hard, so if we're early stage founder, whenever we do something for the first time, there will be steps in the process that are new to us, that we haven't done before. If we would have done it before, we would already be an entrepreneur and we would just copy the process. So when we start for the first time, there will be new things that we've never done before. And whenever we do new things, it will be hard. It will not be easy, it will be hard. Now, when things get hard, there is the tendency that we try to find an easy way around, but it is not. We can jump ship, we can lose, we can say, okay, that's not the right process for us, and we find a process that looks more convenient, but probably just at that one step. At the end of the day, regardless of which process, what's the name of the process that you choose to follow, they all have to go through the same steps at some point. So you can, instead of jumping ship and finding something that is more convenient, just stick to it and power through, because what you want is on the other side of hard. Be persistent. I think it was Steve Jobs who said once that he thinks 90% of what separates successful entrepreneurs from those that fail is persistence. And persistence, when things are easy, you do not have to be persistent. You need to be persistent when things are hard. And yeah, follow through it. Don't jump ship. All the processes are proven, regardless of what they're called. Choose one that you feel comfortable with and then stick to it. That's the most. Be persistent.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, David. So after all this, we learned about the process, the best practices and all. Could you give us a real life example that the startup that you work with that use this process, that what are the outcome and they have achieved within certain period? Is there what are the typical time frame that early stage startup should actually embark this process? Is there any time frame that, or any example?
Yeah, look, as a startup, you mentioned it earlier, timing is critical. So you can't spend all the time in trying new things. You have to try a lot and you have to try fast, right? Right now, I'm working with a startup that are looking at disrupting the data ownership on the internet, bringing ownership of their own data back to the users. And they are having quite a lot of resources, young people here from Melbourne, students that are putting a lot of effort in and going through different accelerator programs in parallel to learn the different steps. So they had their idea, and then they went back to the customers to ask, create a community, send newsletters out, invite people to interview with them. That they did it really quickly. That took them about 3 to 4 weeks to get the interviews in. They identified that they have a double-sided market in the define phase, and then they come up with ideas how to serve both sides of that market. And going back to the personas of those markets, they basically came up with a solution that is not the tech solution that they're looking for in their long-term goal, but basically what they do right now, they test their idea by actually doing manual work for a business client who wants to know more about their customers. So per Excel sheet, they are now aggregating and processing data to feed it back to that business client, which helps them to learn, make some cash flow, learn, and those are lessons learned that they then implement into the design of their digital product that they envision. And the product that they envisioned in the first step, before they started to talk to customers at all, was very different to what they see now, what their product might be looking like after they had that exposure to talking to potential clients on both sides of the market, talking to investors, potential investors, that told them, okay, that's what we are looking for when we want to support a startup. And they've learned a lot, and they said, wow, if we would have just built what we wanted to build, we would probably never got anyone to buy or download our app. And that all coming up, they had their idea, going back to customers, defining customers, testing ideas with customers, and having the first paying customer for a low-level MVP, non-tech MVP. It took them about 2 months.
Wow, okay, that's a very interesting story here. Good to hear that there's a real life examples as well. I'm sure there's a lot, but yeah, thanks, David, for sharing this with us.
You're welcome.
Yeah, okay. So I hope all I hope our audience today have learned a bit about design thinking and also the processes and what are the best practices. Okay, right.
Question.
Actually, we do have a questions from the audience. That's to David. What's the book details again? Please mention on your second slide speech. Yeah, you mentioned a book about discipline entrepreneurship. Is it that?
It is that. I actually have it here with me, so I will just type it in here in the chat. It's Bill Olet. Disciplined entrepreneur. I hope I can spell that correctly. I should. There are some E's missing. Entrepreneurship. That's it. So thanks for that. OVHcloud question: what's the best way to empathize with customers and gather customer needs, pain points, surveys, interviews, any specific approach? Surveys. Everyone wants to start with a survey, but who are we going to survey and what questions are we asking? A survey is really good to get yes and no answers, because then you can actually analyze and process the data properly. But how do you learn what are the right questions to ask? So we call a survey a quantitative research, and the quantitative research is following qualitative research, and those are interviews. As I said, we're aiming for 10 to 20 people that we want to interview, not less than 10, not more than 20 in the early stages. And in those early stages, we're not, for 90% of the interview, if at all, we're not mentioning our idea or the problem that we're thinking exists at all. We're just talking to people and asking them about their lives, what their activities are in a certain area, either at home or at work, whatever we want to find a solution for. And then we listen what they're struggling with. And when they're struggling with, then we dig deeper. We ask why questions, 5 whys, if anyone heard of it. We want to know not what they're doing, but we want to learn why they're doing it. And the deepest level of why is going all the way down to emotions, and even all the way down to trauma, negative emotions, because that's where we want to move our clients away from negative experiences, emotions, to positive emotions. So yes, we listen a lot, and we listen attentively. I like to record my interviews if I get the consent of the interviewee. If I can't record it and post-process it, I ask if I can have a second person with me who is taking notes, so I can really listen and focus on asking the right questions. Whereas the second person is taking notes, and is not just taking notes about what is said, but is also taking notes about the emotional reactions of the person, of the interviewee. When did they pause? When did we recognize a change in tone of voice? When did the body tell us that their body language tell us that there is emotion attached? When did they not say anything? Those are the things that we do when we are emotional, and basically 90%, over 90% of the information that we get from an interview is not from the spoken word. It's from body language, it's from tone of voice, and it's from things that are not said. That's how we do a qualitative research. And after that, we process the data to understand what are the right questions to ask to validate that the problems that we identified are actually having a large enough market to be viable.
Interesting. Thanks for the tips for the ways to actually conduct interview and also survey. Yeah, there is another question is about we have covered customer problem and solution. What about innovative solution towards new way to deliver new services or solution? How design thinking process will apply in this area?
We have current customer problem and solution. What about innovative solution towards new way to deliver new services? So I probably would have to get a little bit of clarification. Are you talking how to find new solutions to a problem that is already solved, a better way of doing things? So I just assume there until I get assume that that might be it. Yes, cool.
Yeah.
So my preferred example here is Uber. Uber had identified a problem, developed a product that was really working well and that was innovative. There was nothing like Uber before, right? But Uber had really, really bad customer reviews from both ends of the customer, from their drivers as well as from their riders, right? And that opened up the market for other players in the field to say, hey, there is a gap. We can do a better job than Uber. And we had Ola coming up, and we had Didi coming up. And when we talk to drivers that are riding with all of them or driving with all of them, they say, hey, I rather go with Didi or Ola because I get the bigger share of the riding price, right? I make more money per ride. So the same solution, but with an optimized value proposition for the drivers, made the drivers prefer those other services, right? So whenever there is a solution out there, but there is negative emotions, unhappiness of the customers with that solution, that opens up the opportunity for competitors to come into the market and address those problems, those negative emotions of the existing customers. The opposite, Amazon. Amazon was 100% customer focused from the very beginning. That's why basically no one ever on a global level really challenged Amazon, right? Because they were always at the top of the customer experience. There were only niche markets at the end of the bell curves where online resellers said, okay, I can create more value there for a niche market. But the global experience for the majority of people with Amazon is just on the customer side is really, really good. And that's why Amazon is the juggernaut it is.
Okay, thank you. Is there any more questions from the audience? Feel free to pop in your questions under the question box. So I have another question here from the audience that if we would like to embark this exercise, the design thinking process and all, should we do it ourselves or should we actually get a specialist or some consultant to do it with us, and how much it will cost, and yeah, how are we get into this process?
It's like with everything. If you want to get better and you want to achieve results quickly, it is good to work with someone who's done it before or is an expert in it, right? Top athletes are not doing training themselves; they get a coach. I personally prefer coaches over consultants. I like people that are hands-on when they're working with me, so my recommendation is to find a coach that is going through the process with you over a longer period of time, and that you can access whenever you hit a roadblock. How much does it cost? That can be if you approach a coach that is targeting corporates, that can cost you all the way up to 20,000-30,000 for a 3 month. engagement. When you go into the startup world, where people are really passionate about helping early stage founders or small businesses, you can get coaching for 3 months for as little as 3,000 Australian dollars, which then gives you weekly access to your coach and help when you need it. And that's the important thing, that when we hit a roadblock, then we can call and we get the help immediately before we get frustrated and before we go into the wrong direction and we're wasting time.
Great. Yeah, it's always good to have a mentor or a coach to be with you, especially your early stage startup, to get the advice and learn from the people who has experience in this particular area or any topics that you would like to address. Yeah.
Yeah, especially as early stage founders, we don't know all the steps, right? And we're not experts in all the things that. When we're coming out of the corporate world, we have a whole team of experts that are really, really good in everything they do. But as a early stage founder, it's basically just us, and we need some help with the things that we don't know. And that can be a coach that you engage with, but it can also be a community of people where you basically get other founders that are expert in one area that you are not an expert in, and that can help you as well.
That's so true. Yeah, as a startup, you have to juggle so many things. Yeah, and a lot of time, if you are a small startup and also early stage, there's too much to learn from and too many processes. You have to take care of your product, your employees, or your teams, or your customers. Yeah, there's just too many. So it would be good to get advice and guides from the community, from the coach that you are actually work together with. Yeah.
Definitely, yes.
Yeah. Another question come in is, do you recommend the workbook too?
I say yes, but I haven't been through the whole workbook myself. But in general, any workbook is helping you on your journey, right? It keeps you accountable. You can just listen or read the book, but when you have a workbook, you put the work in. So any workbook that is related to good content is worth the effort to put in, because it actually helps you to make progress. I engage with a lot of people that tell me all the books that they've read so far, and ask me what should they read next. And to many of them, I say, look, you have read so many books, you know so many things, you have to do stuff now, right? You just have to try things and learn what is actually working of the things that you've read, what is working for you and what is not working for you. And you have to get stuff out of your head, all the knowledge, and make space for new knowledge. Just putting more in there does not make you better in executing, in implementing. It just bogs you down. Do stuff, and if a workbook helps you to get going to do stuff, do a workbook. If you need accountability partners in your community, find accountability partners to do stuff, keep you accountable, to keep going. Do things. As long as you don't do, you're not making progress.
Yeah, that's go back to your very beginning of the discussion that you share with us, that we have thoughts, but then we have ideas. It's the time for us to execute it. Otherwise, it's just always been thoughts. Yeah.
It is.
So,
And
yeah.
the first step of implementation is actually writing those ideas down. You will hear that from a lot of successful entrepreneurs, that they always have a notebook with them, and whenever they have an idea, they just write it down. You do not even have to structure your notes, but just getting your idea on a sheet of paper as a note is actually getting it out of your head, and just the process of writing it down is making it more real than keeping it inside your head.
Okay, yeah, that's so true. Yeah, otherwise it would just always been thoughts. Yeah, I can't agree more. Otherwise, there's no there's no first steps of executions that actually take the initiative now. Thank you so much, David, for sharing all this with us. I think that's very valuable, and we learned a lot from you today.
Thank you so much, Yanling, for having me. It was a pleasure, and yeah, I hope that the audience got something out of it, and looking forward to the next time, maybe.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we're going to run more sessions like this to share and give tips and ideas and guides to startup, especially in the early stage startup, to help them through. It's not easy to be a startup. Like I said, that there's so many things, and especially you want to make sure that your solution is able to address certain problem, then you can make money out of it. So it is important to always learn and also be in the community to get all the insights and to learn from other people success and also mistakes. So before we close, I would like to share about the OVHcloud startup program. Like I said before, we've been supported more than 2,000 innovative businesses worldwide since we launched the program. So we have two tracks of the program to actually help startup and scale up. So with this program, we offer free infrastructure credit to qualified startup that will need technical and cloud infrastructures to kickstart your project or to scale your solutions. So qualified startup will receive up to 100,000 of cloud credits to on public cloud and host a private cloud to actually support your business, and also receive technical support from solution architect, and also branding exposure, marketing opportunities, and get invited to events, workshop, conferences like today, and share your use cases and testimonial to the wider audience and through our ecosystems. So this program is open to all qualified tech startups that you can apply directly on our websites. Reach out to us if you have any questions. We're happy to actually help you validate your project ideas and then put into innovation for your business. So before we end, these are the details about the link that I would like to share with our audience today. Feel free to go to our website, startup.ovhcloud.com, to learn more about the program and other use cases from our startup program members. Feel free to reach out to me via email or the social networks. We have the social network on LinkedIn and also Twitter on OVHcloud and also OVHcloud Startup Program. If you have any question regarding design thinking processes, you would like to have more details, reach out to me to connect you with David. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, David, for sharing with us this valuable insights and tips about design thinking. I'm sure our audience have learned a lot from you.
Thank you.